Have you ever realized you climbed the wrong ladder and the only way down is a risk? And what if a promotion isn't the answer, but a pivot is? We've both been there. I'm Summer, doctor of physical therapy and integrative wellness consultant. After years of navigating my own health journey and guiding others through theirs, I've learned one thing: access changes everything. So this is where we bring together honest voices in wellness to help you maintain, refine, and elevate how you live. All right, today I'm here with Jesi Carroll, life path astrologer and coach based out of Miami, Florida. So Jesi, tell us a little bit about yourself. Not necessarily your bio, but tell us your interests and kind of what makes you tick.
Yeah, great question. So a little bit about me. I am a life coach. I have been a life coach for, I feel like my entire life, but professionally 6 years.
Amazing.
And that took me down the windiest path ever. I started as just kind of a general life coach, and then I dove into business coaching, and then really heavy on the mindset work. And then I got picked up by Tony Robbins and started working for him with Mastermind.
Amazing.
And then there's so much to the story, but basically that then fueled me down a dark night of the soul after that whole experience. And what met me on the other side was astrology.
I love that.
And I feel like we don't even have enough time to go into the whole thing, but it was so much of just an unraveling of me coming into my authenticity, my true self, because in the background, I've always been an intuitive. I've always been connected to the spiritual realm.
Yes.
And so as the things that I thought I wanted started to crumble away and just stop working, I got launched into my truth, and it's been really rad since the astrology door opened, and that's kind of where I'm at now. But I'm still a life coach. I still help people, but my approach is just using people's charts to navigate their life questions.
Of course. It's almost like you're tailoring or customizing the process more towards them a little bit more specifically based on, what resonates best with them, right?
Yeah.
Even if they're not consciously aware of it yet, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's more of just, let's look at the data.
Yeah, I love that. So thinking about yourself as a kid growing up, is this what you thought you wanted to do?
Not at all. You know what's funny? I feel like so many people grow up and they're like, yeah, I knew what I wanted to be, or I had an idea of what I wanted to be. I literally didn't.
Yeah.
I felt like when I look back, I'm like, should I have had an idea of what I wanted to be? I had no idea. Mm-hmm. And so I never even thought in the future. I never really thought about any of that. I grew up doing dance my whole
amazing.
life. Yeah, I grew up doing dance. And so as far as I was concerned, I just wanted to keep dancing. And then I don't know. Then I went to college, and then dance was always there in the background, but professionally, I really didn't know.
Yeah, I feel like, okay, so this is one of my favorite questions to ask people and clients in general, but when you got to school, obviously you said you didn't know what you wanted to do. So then I guess, how did you pick, or what did you pick, and is it related to what you're still doing today? Because I feel like usually there can be sometimes a huge separation, or sometimes they can be entirely unrelated.
Yeah. So I feel like my journey has been the definition of feeling so lost along the way and not really having a North Star. Because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And it was one of those things where I just picked something.
Right.
Initially I started with business and marketing, and then I realized it had a lot of math involved, and I was like, I hate math, and I don't want to struggle for this entire degree. So then I went to more of the fun side of marketing, I thought. So I did advertising. Yeah. But again, it was all just picking something to finish in 4 years. There wasn't a passion in it. There wasn't anything that said, this is what my soul wants to do. Okay. And once I graduated, and then I ended up going into recruiting.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I ended up doing corporate recruiting for 8 years. And through that process, it was like, this is not what my soul wants. This is not what feels aligned for me at all. And it's a whole evolution. But I genuinely did not really have any intention to what I chose. It was more of, I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. And it was more focused on checking boxes.
Yeah.
That's 100% what my path was. I was like, I know I'm supposed to get a degree in life, or supposed to get a degree.
Exactly.
So that's what I did, is I just got the degree with zero desired around it. It was just like, I'm supposed to do this. And then I was like, shoot, what do I do now?
I know. I almost wish that education and society work backwards in a way that like people waited to go to college until they like had a few mandatory years like living in the real world first or experiencing different cultures or something, right?
Yeah.
Just to get a little bit more understanding for, you know, what actually resonates with you outside of your immediate bubble even, right?
Yeah. I remember one year in college, it was like year 1. And there was this girl that I guess she was local from the town that I was in. I went to school in Idaho, and so it was a really small town. But when there was a gal that came and like hung out with us one lunchtime, and I had never met her before. But I said, "Oh, what are you studying?" And she's like, "Oh no, I'm just coming to hang out. I'm taking a year off." And I remember thinking, who in their right mind takes a year off? Like, what are you gonna do with your life? How are you gonna figure it out? But like looking back, I don't even know who that was, but I still remember that piece of meeting a random person, because looking back, I'm like, actually, that might have been really brilliant.
Yeah.
That might have
But
been
at
really
the time,
brilliant.
we might have thought like, oh my gosh, that's too risky. You know?
100%. I was like, how are you going to do it in 4 years? How are you
Yeah,
gonna finish?
you're
Max
gonna have to
5
start
years.
over. Yes, all of the what ifs come into play, right?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. So I guess for you, what were early indicators for you? Maybe was it in the corporate recruiting position? Was that last where you felt like something was off, in which you really started to transition more back towards coaching or leaning more into the astrology part of it?
Yeah, so I would say the signs were there way earlier than I started to listen to them.
Yeah.
And so I think when I finally started to listen to them, they got louder than they needed to.
Yeah.
So I was in corporate for 3 years. 8 years. I served 8 years in corporate.
Yeah, that's a healthy dose.
Yeah, I served 8 years. I did my time. And but I started feeling like I just didn't belong there probably the start of year 3.
Okay.
And so what I did was I was like, oh, it must just be the company I'm at. Maybe I've outgrown this company. And so I figured out how to like climb the ladder, but going from company to company.
Oh, interesting.
And so I like outside, it looked like I was progressing and getting all these like promotions and moving to these bigger, better companies. But inside, I felt so lost. I felt like I was faking it. I felt like I didn't belong. I was like, any minute now they're going to fire me and figure out that I don't know what I'm doing. And so it wasn't until it was like my last year in corporate. I was working at Amazon, and I had like literally I never thought I'd be the girl that had the really nice office overlooking the water. Like I had this whole thing, like mid-20s, you know, and I was on the outside, I looked successful. And I remember I would always bring a makeup bag in my car, because I knew on my way there I was going to be crying, and I was going to be like just like releasing all this just sadness and anger and frustration, and I was going to need to fix my makeup in the parking garage,
like dreading your day
before I walked into work.
Wow.
And I did that enough times, but I'd listen to like personal development or just empowering things and on podcasts and stuff, and I was like, none of this is making any sense. And then finally one day, I remember I went to like open up my computer, and my entire body got red hot, and I couldn't focus. I couldn't look at the computer. And when I tried, I got dizzy. And then I was like, I need to go to the bathroom and just figure out what this is. And I was having a panic attack, and I was just freaking out. I was not okay. And I started bawling my head off, and I was like, something has to change. And it's a whole thing. But basically I got introduced to a group of girls, and we went to this entrepreneur conference down in San Diego. I was in Seattle at the time, and I had never heard of anything like this. Like, I grew up with a mom who's an entrepreneur, but she always looked like she was struggling or like working really hard and in a lot of stress about it. But I go to this conference, and these women are showing me what's possible, and I started planting seeds. And long story long, I think while I was feeling so in pain in my environment, like I physically couldn't be in my environment anymore. I was also being shown other possibilities, other ways out. I think life knew there was something more for me. And this is where I'm like, whoa, I had a lot of balls. I basically got back from that conference. I got a EIN number thinking it was like a business license. And I was like, I got my EIN number. I had no idea what I was doing. And then I put in my month notice. And I like sold all my stuff. I moved across the country. Well, I moved from Seattle to Austin. I started a business, totally like no plan other than like a hope, a dream, and some savings. And I went for it, and it's been a crazy journey. But to answer your question, there were so many signs of just being unhappy. But when I listened the most when my body was screaming at me.
Yeah, because you can't ignore it anymore.
Yeah, I couldn't ignore it.
When things start physically breaking down, it's not something you can put on the back burner anymore, right?
Yeah.
It physically stops you in your tracks, kind of. And I've had experiences too, even sometimes people where, you know, later you're like, wow, they were not the right vibe, where it's almost like afterwards it's like, wow, they literally made me sick. Or your computer, your situation, like it literally made you sick in the moment, right? And that was your wake-up call, right? So I think it's important to pay attention to those things, you know? And I kind of, you know, when I hit my breaking point in my career when I was burnt out, similarly, I realized, you know, what I was keeping myself in essentially was my worst case scenario, right? Like if I did take the risk, go out on my own, take a chance, get myself out of like the daily stress and suffering that I feel like I was in, the survival mode, right? And even if it did fail, what would I do? And ultimately, I would get a job doing exactly what I was doing at that moment. So that was my pivotal mindset shift of like, why am I keeping myself in my worst case scenario when I can at least try, you know? So it's like, I'm glad, you know, you experienced that, and it's, you know, it can be a really taxing transition for some people, especially when you do have all those physical symptoms associated with it, you know?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you had any big mindset pivots otherwise?
Yeah, you know, something that I started to really believe, and I say believe in that like intense way, because belief is an embodiment.
Right.
Belief is like you just have this knowing within you that it's true, and it takes time and practice to have the belief really sink in. But something that eventually over time started feeling really true for me was this idea that, and I believe in God, but whatever you believe in, right, source, universe, whatever, I started realizing that God is not going to, I get emotional when I think about it, is not going to make something feel like it doesn't fit anymore. It's not going to make you uncomfortable enough to make a change and make everything in your world that feels like it doesn't fit. Like, it's not going to take all of that away from you and then put you in something worse.
Yeah, it's for a purpose.
It's for a purpose. It's even if it takes a time. Like, I've been on a 6-year journey now, and it's only just now feeling like it's starting to click.
Yeah.
It's been a hard 6 years, but I just have this belief, this relentless belief that like I'm not going to be put somewhere worse than where I was.
Yeah.
Because what would be the point of that?
Yeah.
You know, it might feel worse initially, but it's to strip you down to your ultimate authenticity, so then you can step forward with like truly where you're supposed to be. Yeah. And it hurts so bad. It hurts so bad when it's shedding, because none of it is actually you.
Yeah, so it's almost like you're releasing a former identity sometimes.
It's
and like
100%.
You know, figuring out how to like fully show up as yourself, but not the self that you thought you had to be based on past roles or how you grew up or whatever, but based on how you actually want to live your life and what actually feels good to you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, you do have to let go and quote unquote sacrifice something to be able to receive it. Because that old identity and the new identity they can't coexist in the same lane, the same level. So that's a truth that I've been coming into in this journey that's really held me down and helped me ground when it feels like, what the F? Like, why is this happening? Why isn't it what I want it to be yet? Why did I leave something that was comfortable and was fine enough? Yeah. You know?
Yep. I love the phrase, like, good enough is very different than great, right?
Say that again.
Good enough is very different than great. And you can apply that to anything of like, you know, whatever, like this coffee tastes good enough, but it's not great, right? Like it's really not giving you everything it should be giving you, right?
Yes, I heard somebody say this the other day actually, and they said the scariest and worst and hardest place to be is in a reality that is okay, but like there's nothing really wrong with it. It's like, you don't really
that's when
need
people
to leave.
feel stuck, I feel like, and they don't have the clarity. They don't have the push to make a change, or sometimes they don't have the fire yet.
Yeah.
Or because there's nothing wrong, there's no urge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. And I feel like of course, we talk about like how these things can be a process and, like we've gone through it, both of us essentially. But also, it's really taught me to think of change and view change as a really wonderful opportunity to reinvent yourself or show up differently or, re-identify or change your wardrobe or whatever, move to a different city, do something entirely different. You can really kind of take your life by the reins if you want, know?
Yeah. And I think it takes a second to see it as that gift.
Yeah.
Like
of course.
Even right now, I'm 2 months out of leaving a 5-year relationship and it has been really raw. It's been really raw and really having me being having that same conversation again, but with the idea of relationship and partnership around, well, on paper and everything, it was fine. It was not, I didn't need to do that. Why did I do that? And it was because there's this deep belief that I can create something greater than this that just feels okay. And I deserve that. But it's taken a couple months and it will continue to take some time, but it's taken a couple months to see the blessing of whoa, even actually today, I had that realization of, wait a second. What if instead of being sad, and sad's okay, right? You can grieve.
Yeah, of course.
But what if actually this is a clean slate I've been praying for from a new perspective because it's like a upward spiral.
Yes.
Right? It's like, okay, now I'm coming at a similar feeling, but from a different perspective,
You've learned something.
A lot of years of experience and a new level within myself. And now I can see it different, and now I can approach it different, and I can do it different, and I can create way more intentionally than I was doing before when I was first kind of tapping into the possibility space.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so true, you just learned so much about yourself in the process, and it is just that. It's a process, and it's not always a steady upward trajectory either. No. And it's very up and down,
I'm just
right?
imagining
yeah, but exactly. But it's just learning to, I guess, have compassion for yourself, for lack of a better phrase, or not to sound cheesy, but seriously, have patience and compassion for yourself, right? Yeah. And just actually do the work of looking inward, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So I know you talk a lot, obviously with it being a life path astrologer, you talk about astrology as well, but you talk a lot in some of your posts about some of the elements in terms of astrology, which in feng shui, which is part of what I do, I talk about balancing the elements as well. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit about what the elements mean in astrology, because I feel like people usually know their sun sign, and sometimes they might know a little bit of the basics about their specific element, but they don't really know what happens if you're in a deficit, or what does that even mean, or how can that affect you?
Yes, I love this so much because I will say I'm not somebody who's been doing astrology for years and years and years and years. I've been studying it in the background for a long time, but I've been really heavily the last year really diving in this whole brand new way. And I just share that because as I have just been a deep student of astrology, I'm learning about things like the elements that I didn't even pay attention to before. And basically, the elements are just mimicking the human. Right. They mimic the water element is like our blood, and it's just our life force within us. And the earth is our bones and our skin and the makeup of our external. Right, the fire is our passion, our sense of just invigoration for life and the things that light us up. And then air is our mind, it's our thoughts, it's our curiosity. So it's all of that is in our chart. Yeah. And so we all have a different makeup of those elements within our chart. Yeah. And so so they say 0 to 1 of an element within a certain sign or a house means that you are deficient in it.
Okay. And do you mean 0 to 1 degrees?
Oh, no, good question. 0 to 1 of a planet. Okay. In that element. Okay. So I would say it's definitely easiest looking at your chart, just literally count how many planets you have in each element, because that will tell you. Okay. But otherwise, you can kind of get a feel. For example, I have really low fire in my chart. I have literally one planet. And it's a big one. It's Jupiter, so I'm blessed for that one amplifier. But I now that I'm understanding that, when I look at my own patterns and how I show up in my life, the thing that's always been really hard for me is confidence and believing in myself and knowing that I can do it. So what'll happen is I'll get these spurts of energy or confidence. And then it's like, it'll just die off.
Yeah.
And it's very fleeting. It's very temporary. And then I'm really hard on myself and I go into my heavy earth and water where I can be so emotional and I can be really hard on myself. I can feel like I'm not doing enough and I want to be a workhorse to make up for it. And it's like, all I need to do is consistently show up with a passion and everything will flow.
Yeah.
But if you don't know the makeup of your elements in your chart, you just think something's wrong with you. You think like,
you can't keep up,
I'm just not a confident person. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you're just lacking that in your chart, which means it's a deficiency that just like any other deficiencies, like hormones, for example, you just want to, kind of do some digging, do some research, learn a little bit about it, and then see what you need to help that balance be there.
Yes, I love that.
So it's fascinating. There's so much to learn within your chart. It can tell you so much with just such little amount of information.
Well, and I feel like that's why these things are so complementary to some of the more physical or tangible Western-based practices, right? Like all of these energetic, subtle-based things. And I mean, it has an effect and it's important, and it really does kind of help give you a guide, essentially, through some of the challenging situations, So Jesi, tell us a little bit about where people can connect and find you, please.
Yes, well, thank you for having me. This has been really wonderful and a lot of fun. I am at Life Design by Jesi on Instagram, and then my website. It's one day this is all going to connect and make sense, but my website is House of Haven. It's where all of my like astro and intuitive and more spiritual side lives. But you can find all of that on my bio in my Instagram.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll chat again.
Yes.
If something in today's conversation gave you clarity, perspective, or direction, take what resonates and apply what works. Knowledge is power, and now you have more of it. Until next time.